Hey everyone, Marco Pechnik here, and today I'm going to go through 3 different applications that I use for both my students and my colleagues. These are educational applications that I've used to reduce friction in the classroom, and so I just want to introduce them to you to hopefully generate some new ideas as to what you might be able to make for your classroom. So let's get into it. So the first application here is End of the Roll, and this is a digital contact sheet creator. I teach film photography as well as digital photography, and usually I require a certain amount of photographs per project. In film photography, that's the entire roll, so that's 24 to 36 frames. And then in digital photography, that might be upwards of 50 to 200 photos per project. And this application, what it does is it reduces some of the friction that we've seen in our classroom. A lot of my students used to have to go to a Google Sites. We still use Google Sites for like a portfolio, a digital portfolio that lives with them throughout all their classes. But they used to have to upload each individual frame, title it, and then do a reflection on the top and an assessment of their photo at the bottom. And let me tell you, this was a very tedious, repetitive task. And I've created an app to kind of bypass a lot of the structure and organization of all these procedures. So what you can see here is we have a area where we can upload photos. So we're going to select a few of the photos that, let's say, we took. These are just taken off the internet. And you'll see that I can hover over them to get rid of them if they don't fit. So this is black and white portraits, so we're just going to stick with these 4. Or we can clear all and get rid of all of them. The other thing you're going to see here is I've had some teachers reach out and request to use this application, but their IT departments were not willing to let them unless I had like a statement on their data. So on how I use the data. And I don't use the data. This is a website that doesn't save anything that's uploaded to it. In fact, when you refresh it, it just wipes the slate clean. There's no memory of what was posted. So outside of the AI that assesses the images or the text and structures it into a PDF for you to download at the end, nothing is saved here. So once your photos are uploaded, you go into the reflect section. This is where you're going to add your name, you're going to add the class you're in, you're going to add the hour you're in, and you're going to add the and you're going to add the project title. Now at the bottom here, you're going to see, or in the middle here, you're going to see process reflection. So these are 3 random questions that generate each time that you open this application and you finish your project. I just require my students to answer this with a sentence or 2. But the really cool thing about this application or applications that you create is that you can have this create requirements. So for example, maybe you require a complete sentence. You can embed this so that when they go to review and finalize, the AI checks to see if this is a full sentence or a complete sentence, or if they even filled it out at all, and it doesn't allow them to proceed unless they have everything filled out. So let's just say the most difficult part was the next thing you can do here is select the final image, your favorite photo from the pictures that you took. Now this, for my students, is the one that I suggest that they print in the darkroom and they turn into me. Or if it's digital, it's just the one that they found most successful. Here's where there's another really cool feature that I've embedded into this, which is the analysis tool. So you can see it says write at least 5 sentences analyzing your final selection, discuss why you chose it, use elements of art, principles of design, and any technical settings used. So here's where you're going to start talking about like I tests really well. So as you might have noticed, I'm only going to write 3 sentences here, but as you might have noticed, as I started writing, the terms that I'm using highlight. So I can see kind of what terms I was using, and then I can hover over them to see what the definition is to gauge, am I using it correctly? Do I remember exactly what I'm talking about? So once they're done, you can review and finalize this. They can check and see, all right, did I get everything done? I did. Now they're going to finalize the submission, and I have a little step-by-step as to what they need to do to submit their projects to me. The cool thing here is, as you can see, it saves it by their name and the project, so they don't even have to worry about naming the JPEG after it's downloaded. And this is what it turns out to look like. This is awesome. You know, all the photos that are in the contact sheet show up as small little thumbnails at the bottom. It tells me when they generated it, so I can see if they've turned it in late. I can also see what their process reflection was, and I can see what the analysis looks like. Now, I used to have it so that it would generate a little red, yellow, or green dot up here to tell me if it's an assessment that was really good for green, or needs work, yellow, or red. Students just didn't know what they were talking about when they were using their terms. And that way I could kind of easily kind of filter through the projects that I needed to look at when it came to writing about their work. So that's the first platform. Pretty straightforward, reduces a lot of friction in the classroom. Something that used to take us 3 days now takes us 1 day. The next project I want to show you is, or the next application is RubricMe. Now, RubricMe is a rubric generator, okay? And we are going to create a rubric for the project that I just showed you. So this is a black and white film portrait. All right, so sometimes in my classes, I have already written the expectations, and I've specifically taught them and specified the objectives and requirements of the project, and I've hammered it home like 30 times. And the last thing I want to do is have to go in and write the rubric and describe everything I've already described through my PowerPoint, through my worksheets. And so instead of having to write the rubric so that it fits the national or state standards, I've designed an app that does that for me. So I can take my PowerPoint and I can just upload it directly, and then that's going to create for me a rubric that organizes all my expectations into the make, plan, etc. Categories. And I can also word it based on whichever level I'm teaching. So ours is going to be state standards, and I work in Wisconsin. The prompt is just an area, instead of uploading, if you didn't want to upload your rubric and you wanted to describe it more thoroughly, or maybe it's a new project that you're about to create, but you need kind of you're not exactly sure how you're going to create the objectives. This can kind of help us assist you in that. So let's say we're creating a black and white portrait project focused on poses and camera angle, while also revisiting exposure, triangle, and maintaining high contrast. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to generate it, and here you can see that in this application, I've made it so that if you sign in, you can utilize some more things like storage. So I've embedded some storage in here. I've also embedded Google Sign-In and Google Authentication. So those are some things that I can happily show you guys in the future videos when we design an app together. But for now, we're going to continue as a guest, and you can see it's got this nice, beautiful loading screen. Now what it's doing is it's looking at what I wrote. It's looking at the class that I teach, the title of the project, and it's going to design a rubric for me. So here's the learning objective. I can create a compelling black and white film photograph that effectively uses intentional poses, camera angles, and precise exposure techniques to achieve strong contrast and convey artistic intent. That's exactly what I wanted them to do. Let's say that wording is a little too a little too high level. Maybe I teach mostly freshmen, so I want to keep this more at a middle school level. I can just simply choose the target grade level and refine the content. And what this is going to do in a few seconds is it's going to just revise all the text into more simplified wording. And it shouldn't take too long. So here we go. Now everything's kind of revised. And if I wanted to, I can rewrite this and just say planning. Shows some ideas for the portrait, but planning for pose, angle, or mood is basic or unclear. Clear plans for pose, camera angle, and a specific mood. The concept is understandable and supports the project's idea. So in the exceeding category, shows detailed and thoughtful planning for pose, camera angle, and mood, creating a strong and intentional idea for the portrait, right? So if I was creating an assessment for my students, I think this is pretty clear for them to review and then look at their photo and see like, well, did I hit these areas? So as you can see, again, these are my standards: the plan category, the make category, the evaluate, and the share and respond. And then at the very bottom, I have sections where I can have them add more reflections if I want, an artist statement. I can also add an instructor's box if I want, or I can remove sections. But for right now, we're going to keep these in here so that you can see what it looks like on the tail end. All right, so let's say I'm happy with this. Another thing you can do is go in and add these or add more categories or objectives if you want. Adjust the grade, and you can quite simply just add a different language in here too if you wanted it to be a different language. And this works flawlessly. I've tried it with my Mandarin students. So anyways, now we're done. We're going to save our changes and we're going to go into the print. This is how it organizes it. Nice and beautifully color coordinated, nice and gridded out. Here's our instructor feedback box, our artist statement box. When we go to print this out, you can see it's nicely organized. So yeah, I love this application, and it just helps me a ton in if I create a new project. I don't have to worry about having the rubric ready by the time it's finished. I know I'll have it ready by the time it's finished. And I know I'll have it ready even when I introduce the project, so I can have students review the project before they start shooting to make sure that they're hitting all the objectives. All right, so if you're happy with that, you can download the DOCX, which allows you to open it in Google Docs and further refine it or store it in your Google Drive. The other thing you can do is click to show the standards that you're hitting if your district really wants you to describe where you're showcasing or which standards you're addressing in your projects. And then you can print it. So we are going to print it, but instead we're going to save it just as a PDF and save this as, all right, so we'll use this in the future. I'll show you what other apps we have. So that's really cool. All right. So that's Rubric Me. This has helped my colleagues a ton in the field. And again, I don't code. I don't know how to code. I'm just leveraging AI to help assist in making these platforms. All right, so the last application is called Critique Me. And this homepage shows us exactly what this is meant for. This is for helping assist teachers in writing properly thorough feedback on time. We all know that our administration or our administrators have high expectations of timely feedback so that students know exactly where they need growth, um, what areas they're really strong in, and this platform just allows teachers to give feedback on a more timely manner. I hear students all the time complaining that their stuff doesn't get graded on time. Usually that comes from like English classes where teachers are bogged down with a lot of writing to revise and review. But art can be that way too. I mean, art can have a lot of feedback that needs to be written about a certain work so that students have a clear understanding of that it's not just a subjective grade. It actually has, it's being tied to an objective in the rubric. So anyways, we are grading black and white film photos, portraits, sorry. And if we sign into this application, and mind you, this is a prototype. I have not used this particular application in the classroom yet. I would like to, or I would like to know how to. But as you're a learner, I'm still a learner too. So if you have any feedback for me, I'd love to hear it. So anyways, you have a manage classes section. So you can see here I've added some example classes. So I teach photography 2 first hour, 4th hour, 6th hour, and 8th hour. I have rosters for the students that I teach in those classes. These are just categorized by the student names are just numbers in this case. So 1, 2, 3 are my students in hour 1, 4, 5, 6 are my students in number 6, and so on. Okay. Once you finish and save that, you're going to see your classes appear here, and I am going to show you. So if I don't select a class, all my hours are visible, but if I do select a class, it's only going to show me the classes I have rosters for in that particular class, in that semester, and that year. You can also do 3D projects, so you can give the AI multiple viewpoints of different angles of the project, so it can get kind of a three-dimensional perspective of work that's being created by your students. But we're working in a two-dimensional class, so we're going to choose 2D. Now we're going to go and upload the rubric that we just downloaded. And what this app is going to do is it's going to break down all the text so that it knows that when it's assessing the photograph, it knows what it's assessing. So here the rubric's attached, you can view it and you can see all the text is formatted so that the AI can read it. We can't read it like this, but it's got all our objectives in there. You can see our roster here on the left. The next step is to upload student work, and here at the bottom you can see we can also upload student work here. Before we do that, again, you can revise the grade level of how the feedback is given in the tone. You can reduce it down to like 2 sentences if you'd like, or 3 sentences is usually how I give feedback, no more than that. But if you're somebody who gives a lot of feedback, you can go upwards of 6, okay? Class notes. Now, if you're finding that there is a great deal of the same issue happening amongst all your students, or all your students are excelling in one particular area, and you want to address that, you can specify to the AI and say, hey, I think my students are doing a really good job of showcasing contrasts, so that shows me that their photos are being properly exposed through the exposure triangle. So I want you to address that. And if there's a student where you feel like maybe the photo is washed out or not properly exposed, remind them that they should just review the how to adjust their lighting settings through their shutter speed, their ISO, or their f-stop. So what you just saw me use there is a tool called Whisper, and I'll talk about that application in another video. So here we're at upload work. So what I've decided to do is have it so that it uploads work one period at a time, so it organizes for you. So we're going to upload our one first, and let's say this photo and this photo are our one. We are going to add a little bit more work for hour 6. Let's start the upload. We're going to choose this photo for photo 6 and hour 4. And then let's say hour 8, this guy just did not understand what the project was. He did a color film photo. All right. So once you have your photos imported, this already knows your rosters and it knows your students. So you click on this photo, you go to your student name, and this is student number 345. And you can give your initial feedback to this student. And so what I'm going to do here is use Whisper one more time, and I'm going to just tell the application what I'm noticing. And this is actually kind of how I graded. I wouldn't put student work in ChatGPT, but I would open up a ChatGPT folder and I would specify like, hey, I'm grading this project. Here's the rubric. And this is my feedback. Can you refine my feedback into a compliment sandwich? And I would have to do that for a project folder, and then I'd do that, and then I'd copy paste that feedback into a Google Doc, and then I would print that out. So it's still my feedback. It's just refining it down to what's important and getting rid of all my blabbering. So here I'm going to just give this a little bit of feedback, and I'm going to say 345, this looks like a really good photograph. I'm really proud of the image that you captured. I think rule of thirds shows up great, and your prioritization of color and your emphasis of color is showing, is creating a high contrast and good emphasis on the subject. However, this was black and white film photography. So I don't know if you accidentally grabbed color film or you just chose to do color film, but unfortunately these did not hit the guidelines that I was expecting. On the flip side, you did do a really good job of maintaining your exposure, and it looks like your settings were great. So I do applaud you with that. And you can see here that not only did it take my rough feedback, but then it polished it for me. Okay. Now I'm going to give this a grade. I'm probably going to give it a D because it's black and white film. And, well, I'll probably give it like a C. Just theoretically, I'm going to give this a C. Okay. And boom. So that's graded with a C and it's revised. Now the other thing you can do is just tell it to create you feedback for this project. So it's going to give you a grade and it's going to give you feedback based on the photo it's seeing and the rubric that you've added to it, and the little class notes tab that you discussed. Okay, so here it says, your portrait truly masters light and form, demonstrating exceptional technical skill with precise exposure and strong contrast that creates a rich tonal range. I would agree with that. The thoughtful planning of the pose and the camera angle effectively conveys a sophisticated and compelling mood, resulting in powerful visual storytelling. To further expand on your impressive abilities, I encourage you to experiment with more dynamic lighting setups or integrate diverse environmental elements to add new layers to your narratives. And I would agree with all of that. I would probably reword this a little bit because this isn't the language that I would use. And so I would probably revisit this and discuss it more in my light. But sometimes when you have a really impressive photograph coming from a student, sometimes it's hard to articulate what it is that they can improve upon. So this gives you some ideas as to how you could assess that. The other thing it could assess you with is like a photograph that maybe is really, really difficult to find positives that they took. But anyways, so here we go. Let's just name all these students. And the other thing I want to do is show you that this can just go ahead and analyze all your projects. You can kind of sit back, let it do the analysis and create the feedback for you, and then you can just go through and review it. So while that's doing that, oh, I exceeded my quota, unfortunate. So you can see this uses my API key, but what this would do is it would assess all five photos, and then it would give you a grade and feedback. The other thing I wanted to show you was we have an insights button right here, which shows you how many students got an A, and then it'll give you feedback on where they excelled or where they need work. So that is Critique Me, and here you can see there's some past projects that I've graded as examples, and you can see that it gives you that feedback. It also gives you the ability to listen to the feedback if you want to listen to the way that it sounds instead of read it out for yourself. Finally, you can go to settings and you can give a specification to the type of voice that you have. So maybe you already grade like I did in ChatGPT. You've used it as a means to give feedback, and so you can just ask ChatGPT. It's got great memory, and you can say, hey, how do I give feedback to my students? Can you describe that in a 3-sentence output? Or maybe you teach trimester or semester classes, and you can specify what semester you're in or academic year. Okay, and then save those changes, and then your application will work as you want it to. So those are some of my applications. The other thing I wanted to say is if you guys have questions, please like, comment, and subscribe. But also, if you don't want to do that, you can go into my website. You can go to the Contact Me page, and you can just ask me a question to my email. You can also review some of the tools for yourself. There's other tools that I haven't talked about, and I'm creating even more as we speak. So again, reach out, don't hesitate. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.